Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to share with you some of my reflections on the process of academic writing. I spend a significant part of my time writing articles and monographs. I spend an even more significant part of my time reading through the work sent to me by undergraduate and graduate students. Over the years, I have often wished I could patent some kind of a method. Let's call it the Cambridge method, and send it out to the world. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, in the humanities, there is no algorithmic process for writing an essay or a book. So what follows is a set of fallible hypotheses based on my ongoing experiments with writing. Let me say this at the very beginning. In my estimate, any piece of academic writing must be, above everything else, beautiful. There is a statement that is attributed to a Cambridge physicist called Paul Dirac. It is actually a misattribution, but never mind. Dirac is supposed to have said, it is more important to have beauty in the equations of physics than truth. I say in that vein, it is more important to have beauty in the arguments of an academic essay than content. But what is beauty? Beauty is an elusive bird. If you go running after it, usually it will fly away. But if you keep the windows of your heart open, perhaps it will fly in. Now, here is a question I sometimes put to myself. If I were asked to choose across a binary of two kinds of writers, whose company would I enjoy more? So here is writer A, someone whose heart is filled with the fire of poetry, the dance of music, and the delight of song, but who cannot articulate even one grammatically correct sentence and cannot structure even one paragraph where the sentences are conceptually interrelated. And here is writer B, someone whose sentences are so precisely crafted that it seems that there is not one word more and not one word less in each sentence that they write. And yet you feel that the human presence is sorely missing in those sentences. That is a very difficult choice. As a human being, I would always choose writer A. But at the end of the day, that is at the end of the working day as an academic, I will reluctantly choose writer B. This is, as I said, a binary. So let's try to deconstruct this binary and see if we can pick up something from both styles of writing. It is possible that writer B is a portrait of myself as a much younger writer. I dearly cherish sentences that are as precise as they are concise, and that are as concise as they are precise. This relentless obsession with clarity, order, and structure is partly a consequence of the rigorous training I received as a child in music, my first degree in physics, my 2 years as a copy editor in a publishing house, and the 5 years I spent teaching undergraduate courses in formal logic and symbolic logic. My mother and two of my aunts were academic philosophers, and it is possible that I have inherited from them something of this never-ending quest for perfection in syntax and sense in whatever I write. In the all encircling gloom of this world, a sentence should be like a shining lighthouse of meaning that guides its readers to safe harbor. However, I have another persona that is deeply suspicious of precisely this rage for order. Between my mind and my heart, there is a sharp conflict that I have not been able to resolve so far. I inhabit that conflict every day of my life, and that conflict shapes everything that I write, research, and publish. So, on the one hand, I have a rational faith in the intelligibility and the order of the world. Somewhere deep down, there is some structure, some meaning, and some coherence. Note the word faith. I cannot demonstrate to you the correctness or the plausibility of this conviction in the way that I can prove to you that there is no pink elephant in this room right now. On the other hand, this faith frequently falters, and I wonder if all my arguments, systematized to the minutest detail of the sentence, the phrase, the word, and the comma, are simply constructs of my mind that are not rooted in the way the world is. Now, there is a vast amount of philosophical and theological literature on the conflict that I am sketching here. But I will not go in that direction on this occasion. Let me return to the conflict. In the first mode, I am not satisfied unless and until I am able to discern a modus ponens in whatever I write and whatever I read. A modus ponens is an argument of this form. If something is true, then something else is true. Something is indeed true, therefore something else is true. Now, modus ponens is the very living breath of an argument. If there is no modus ponens in what you are writing or what you are reading, there is possibly no argument in it. On some occasions, it has taken me several hours and even several days to write and rewrite a set of 3 sentences until I am convinced that each sentence is grammatically stable. In each sentence, I am able to say just what I mean to say, and each sentence follows logically from the previous sentence. But in the second mode, I feel that precisely this obsession of mine with syntax and rules of inference, such as modus ponens, is but a sophisticated form of vanity. The intellectual vanity of claiming that the argumentative structures that I am developing on a piece of paper neatly conform to what there is and what there is not. So more precisely, here is the conflict. On the one hand, I desperately want to live in the house of reason. But on the other hand, I feel suffocated in the house of reason. As I said earlier, I have no resolution for this conflict. Be that as it may, let me ask myself, why do I write? That, of course, is the fundamental question. There must be a deep restlessness, a profound sense of disquiet that is driving you to write. If you do not feel that unease, do not try to write. The writing will probably lack spirit. But what if you do not feel it? What do you do then? Well, what can I say? Somehow you have to feel it. It is my conviction that all beautiful writing in academic prose starts with a feeling and never with a thinking. In one sense, I write because the process of writing articles and books is part of my job description. This is simply what academics do. To properly outline the real reason why I write, I will need an extended set of autobiographical notes. So I will be precise. Through a series of quite remarkable coincidences, my early adolescence was spent in the company of a socio-religiously diverse group of Hindu, Christian, and Muslim family members and relatives. As I reached the age of, say, 15, I was deeply saddened by the fundamental lack of what we today call religious literacy among Hindus, Christians, and Muslims about one another. I was dismayed to learn that the only thing that an average Hindu knows about Muslims is that they are beef eaters. The only thing that an average Muslim knows about Hindus is that they are idol worshippers. The only thing that an average Christian knows about Hindus is that they are pantheists or monists. The only thing that an average Hindu knows about Christians is that they are intolerant bigots, and so on and on. I don't mean to say that I woke up one morning, say the 1st of January 1991, and decided I would henceforth dedicate my life to promoting mutual understanding among these three groups of human beings. This is what I'm saying today in 2021 retrospectively. Nor is it the case that everything I write and publish today in 2021 is directly or even indirectly related to this goal. Further, I confess with much sadness that my academic writing is deeply jargonish, and you may need specialized training to read it. Now, that is about me. You too must find such a cause, your very own cause, whatever that cause is. Write for that cause. Do not write for yourself. Above all, do not make the fundamental but understandable mistake of writing for your supervisor or for your institution. What really matters is how much fire burns inside your heart. Not how many academics you agree with or disagree with. Of all forms of slavery, intellectual slavery is perhaps the most pernicious. And that brings me to the point I made at the beginning, the significance of beauty in academic writing. This time, let me ask myself, what mental discipline do I impose on myself when I strive to write something beautiful? My answer is somewhat idiosyncratic, or at least it is possible that you will find it idiosyncratic. When I sit down to write, I imagine that a dog is sitting in front of me and listening attentively to my sentences as I very slowly read them out aloud. Now, a dog, I hardly need to tell you, cannot talk back to me. The dog cannot say, I don't understand what that sentence means. Or, that sentence is grammatically incomplete. Or, that word does not mean what the Oxford English Dictionary says it means. Or, your statements are inconsistent. The poor dog has to patiently endure all my infelicities, all my inaccuracies, and all my errors. One of my greatest nightmares is this. One day I will go to dog heaven, where dogs are able to speak in a human language, that is. And English is one of the many human languages that they speak. And all the dogs will complain to me with one voice. You, Dr. Barua, yes, you inflicted on us this misery of having to read your prose, which is grammatically weak, which is semantically pointless, and which is structurally unstable. I would never, never, never want that to happen. Whenever I write, every fiber of my being is activated towards ensuring that this state of affairs is not realized in dog heaven. So before I begin to write, I promise my hypothetical dog, I promise you that I will not put you through any mental torment. Every sentence that I will write will be so full of sunlight that you will feel that you are freely running across a wind-swept field in July. Now, I am a dog fanatic. Indeed, I am convinced that I'm only contingently human, and my soul is canine. But my point is not restricted to dogs. You can replace the dog with anyone else. Let's call this individual the beloved. This beloved can be your human lover, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, Jesus Christ, your friend, and so on. Once again, write for the beloved and write patiently. For the true measure of love is patience. Do not write for yourself. Ask yourself, would I be able to bear it if my beloved were to say to me that my sentences have put them through even the slightest amount of intellectual pain? In short, that is my thou shalt not. Thou shalt not write for thy soul. But what about the thou shalt? What then should you do? What then should I do? To bring these somewhat disconnected reflections to a close, here is an observation. Let me go back to the two kinds of writers. Let me present them in this manner. One writer has a lot of heart, but very little mind. And the other writer is so full of mind that their heart has withered away. I have been suggesting to you that we should actively strive to embody certain dimensions of both writers. But how? That is, how does one combine mind and heart in the process of writing? That is another difficult question. I do not have a straightforward answer. As I indicated earlier, there is no algorithmic formula for academic writing in the humanities. So I will give you one instance of how I attempt this unification, or at least harmonization of mind and heart in the process of writing. Let's say I wish to write an essay in 10,000 words about the idea of India as developed by a Punjabi author and political activist called Lala Lajpat Rai, and his dates are 1865 to 1928. This is what I will do. For around 8 months or 10 months or a year, I will do nothing but read the original texts of Rai, and I will take extensive notes. These notes may run into 40,000 words or even 60,000 words. I will consciously submerge myself in that ocean of notes. That ocean is where I will live and move and have my being for that duration. How do I know when I can or when I should stop reading? My answer is perhaps idiosyncratic. Again, one morning, I will ask myself, do I feel that I have become Lajpat Rai? So that I can claim, however fallibly and tentatively, that whatever I write is not about Lajpat Rai, but as Lajpat Rai. That is, I will aim to situate myself in the shoes of Lajpat Rai and see the Punjab in the early 1920s through his very eyes. Of course, success is not guaranteed in this thought experiment. At the end of the day, I am not Lajpat Rai. But until I feel that I can vividly see through his writings, whatever those writings are sketching, I will not begin to write. I must be able to feel the heat and the dust of a busy street in Amritsar in 1921, where Punjabi Hindus, Punjabi Sikhs, and Punjabi Muslims are walking around under the blazing summer sun. In the novel Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, a figure called Katie says, I am Heathcliff. My aim is to be able to say, I am Lajpat Rai. Till I am confident that I have achieved some measure of existential non-duality with Lajpat Rai, I will not write about Lajpat Rai. So far, so good. However, I do not yet have an argument. I only have a set of images. Now I will go about methodically converting these images, which constitute my raw data, into a set of grammatically correct, semantically significant, and structurally organized sentences. The driving engine of these sentences is both the image and the idea. The image in itself, without the idea, is blind. And the idea in itself, without the image, is empty. Does this mean that I have been successful in bringing about a marriage of the image and the idea? That, of course, is not for me to say. The readers get to pronounce their judgment on my sentences. In conclusion, this is what I have to say. Labor that is undertaken for the sake of love is never experienced as labor. So whatever you read, whatever you think, and whatever you write, offer it ultimately as an oblation unto the cause for which you live. And every paragraph of your prose will become like the bird that can fly freely in the boundless skies because it remembers to return to its nest